I'm thinking back about 5 years ago when I got a call on a cold winter morning informing me that a dear friend of mine, Rashaan Salam, former Heisman Trophy winner, took his own life, committed suicide. And I immediately began to think about the conditions that led to this tragic outcome and what role might I have had in helping that young man make a different decision. And then I began to think about identity, particularly for athletes, and how wrapped up in sports our identity is. And I began to wonder whether or not that was a contributor to Rashaan taking his own life. The fact that he was identified as a football player, and when the lights were off and there were no more touchdowns to be had, who was he? This subject is so important on so many fronts. So I am honored to be here in the pink couch. We're on the pink couch to talk about it. We can't escape it. It's something that we have to talk about.
Hi, my name is Darian Hagan, and when I first got the call about my son, Devon Levy Hagan, and I was told that he had taken his life. My first instincts was to, fall to my knees and, think about what I could have done better as a parent, and if I could have saved his life, if I was there. I was in Colorado and he was in Kansas, and that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to endure. People don't talk about it; they hide behind it. You might as well talk about it and get it out in the forefront. Because somebody somewhere, when you talk about it, someone can help you, and that's why I'm here today on the pink couch. I'm honored that I've been given this opportunity.
My name is Stevie Baggs Jr. And about a month and a half ago, I got a call that my mentor had passed. And well, I got a call actually looking for him. They were doing a wellness check, and I was the only one who had the key to his house. So I get to his home, and I wait on a police officer to get there. We walk in together, and I found his body on the other side of his bed. He was dead and gone. And this just happened a month and a half ago. So it's ironic because, trauma is something that we all have to deal with in life. And how you deal with it is very, very important. And so I'm saying all that to say that I'm thankful for having family and support to help get me out of that dark place, because we all know as much as you should live, you shall definitely die. But to actually see someone who you love dead on the ground, it put me in a very dark place. So I'm thankful to be here to talk about that.
Wow. Okay. Yep. Take a breather. What a way to kick off the show. So welcome to day 2 of Semicolon, and where we are having a very uncomfortable conversation, but highly necessary, about suicide. And you just heard the testimony from 3 gentlemen telling their personal story with suicide. And so we're going to spend this second night of this conversation diving into stigma. And we were very, very intentional about who we brought to the couch today. Why do we bring 3 Black men, former athletes at the highest level of performance, to have this conversation? There's on yesterday's show, as we talked about this, we were, I think, Kennedy, you brought out that the data doesn't discriminate. It impacts every race, every gender, every part of economy, geography. It does not discriminate. But what we are seeing is a higher, increasing rate of Black people killing themselves, of people of color taking their lives. And why we are dedicating this full show to stigma is because we don't talk about it. Shake it off. Get it together. Boy, don't be crying in there. And if you're an athlete, come on now. Shut up and dribble. Shut up and, make that touchdown. Don't be talking about your feelings. Feelings? Ain't nobody got time for feelings. And so we're going to spend this hour really breaking down that conversation. So let me say this, and we'll check in with you guys on the couch, what you're bringing to the couch. So Semicolon, when I'll take you back to a little English lesson. I think Mrs. Henry, my favorite teacher in high school, she actually is my English teacher. I still struggle with a colon and a semicolon. But here's the difference between a semicolon and a period. So you may see people that have a semicolon tattoo, whether it's on their hand, often it's on their neck. It serves as a reminder that when you think of a period, that's finite. In English, you could have chosen to end your sentence in a period, but you chose to consciously make a decision to keep going and continue that story or continue that sentence. Hence, semicolon, the name of our show. So, EJ, Kennedy, we normally start with, what are you bringing to the couch? I'm going to change it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we bringing this to the couch?
I'm happy to go ahead and start. I think why we're bringing it to the couch is because we have to.
Yeah.
I think it's time. It's past time. And personally, I'm tired of having to say goodbye to people who we shouldn't have to say goodbye to. I'm tired of people trying to make sense and blaming themselves and feeling guilt about something that they didn't understand or chose to not take seriously or to turn an eye to. And, the stories yesterday between Victor and Dr. Ashley and Lady Finesse. And that was just a tidbit of just the tip of the iceberg of there's so many stories there. And if we don't have the conversation, we'll be having this same conversation sometime in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to say that this is not the time for the benefit of hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
Not that time. That lesson doesn't need to be learned after the fact. Kennedy.
I have to say that, I've been a mental health and suicide prevention advocate for 9 years now, extremely active. And it didn't start for me until I had a personal and very deep connection with surviving suicide loss. And unfortunately, it wasn't the first time that I experienced loss in that way. And it is devastating. It's devastating for the person who finds them, the family that they leave behind, the coworkers, the friends, the classmates that wish that they could talk to them again, the children that have to be raised without that parent in the home. It is devastating. But I will say, we talk about having uncomfortable conversations, and that is really what we strive to do at the Pink Couch. I will tell you that I've never had a more uncomfortable conversation than the one I had with a parent who lost a child to suicide. Mm-hmm. And when I stepped into this advocacy role over 9 years ago, I didn't even realize how difficult that was going to be. The weight of it didn't really fall on me until I was in it and actually experiencing that. And so I think, for people to really get behind prevention and to make a case for expanding mental health services into high schools and junior highs and college campuses, some of the work that I'm doing, I feel like you have to truly sit with the feelings of the people who have gone through this to develop the level of empathy that is required for you to keep pushing through every obstacle that you're going to get and to continue trying to make change. And so for me, my heart is so heavy because I've been in those conversations and we're getting ready to have another one, but more so because I know that every 10 seconds, someone takes their life, which means we're going to lose people while we're having this conversation.
Right.
And it's just something that's hard for me to accept. And so I want us to get to a place where there's zero suicide.
How about that?
And how do we do it?
Mm-hmm. And I just, just building on the stigma piece, to tell everybody I'm a happy Nigerian British American, but I'm a Nigerian girl. And I remember when there was someone who was close to the family who took their life. And I remember some of the first things that were said by other family members were, they're just selfish. I can't even believe this person was so selfish. And it stops the conversation. And so this is also challenging people to get beyond that and to get beyond those people who want to shut it down. That's their mindset. It doesn't have to be yours.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Well, we're going to bring the fellows back on and dive more into their testimonies. So welcome back to the couch. We have Darian, CJ, and Stevie. Welcome back, young men.
Thank you.
Welcome back. So thank you for sharing your stories. And I'm going to start with you, Darian. I think I remember. I remember when I was at your son's funeral. So I remember that. Tell me, were there signs? So I was talking about hindsight, and so as you've had some time, and I'm sure there was many times immediately after, as you were saying, what could you have done? Were there signs that existed with your son?
To be honest with you, I never sensed anything. I never seen any signs. To me, it was, in my opinion, it was more of a reactionary deal. And I think, it was behind a female, and he was going through some issues with her, with their dating, and she wanted to move on. He didn't want to move on. He found out that she was cheating on him, and it was just too much for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see any signs or anything like that. We talked about him moving on and, letting her move on. And, this is the same day that it happened, because he called me and we talked it out. And I told him, I said, look, dude, don't worry about, the situation that you guys are in. Move on and, get you someone else, and life will be better. And, and he decided that he couldn't move on without her, and decided that, he wanted to call her and reach out and talk. She didn't want to talk. And I think the more and more she rejected him, the easier it became for him, because he knew that he was gonna lose her, and he didn't want to be in a situation where, I guess, he seen her with someone else, and that would devastate him even more. So I think that, it was a reactionary deal, out of, I think, a masculine mindset, where you think, because you're an athlete, you're a good looking kid, and no one's supposed to leave you and all that stuff. And I think that's why he did it, because of that, just being a reactionary. And but like I told him, I'm like, look, move on, and you can get someone else. But I think the more and more I talked to him about a realization, the more and more he talked to her, it became a finalization.
Mm. Yeah, there it is.
You know.
Yeah, hey, Hagen, it's interesting because there are those dates in our lives that cemented in our consciousness, and the day I heard about Devon's situation is one of those dates that's cemented in my consciousness for a number of different reasons. One, the relationship that we have, and
Right.
I had just not a couple of months before had an opportunity to speak with Devon on the sideline up in Boulder, and to hell with the 40 acres and the mule. I think all Black folks should have a shrink, right? I mean, if you really think about it, we're so consumed with our sort of economic situation, society-wide, certainly true in our own community. Mental health is not something we talk a lot about or give much run to. And I'm always mindful of the conditions that we contribute to,
Right.
that puts our people in peril, and we don't do it consciously, clearly, to hurt anyone. But we're a product of this experiment as well, and I think the good and the bad, it's all in us. And so when we think as athletes, when so many athletes, particularly Black athletes, are just in a identity crisis, right, and don't even realize it, and we reinforce those identity crises touch points, it's look, we can't boil the ocean. We can't fix every challenge or problem that's out there just as people, but we can identify our contributions to the conditions that we contribute to, that particularly our Black boys are, if you're not a basketball player or football player or, baseball player, don't have some kind of athletic skill set, then it almost feels as if we question your value, even if we don't say it. It's what we emphasize, and we have to do better.
Absolutely.
It's interesting because Darian, CJ, and I went to the University of Colorado. Both of them played quarterback position. We won a national championship then. I'd like to say that. I tried to get on the team. I wasn't able to get on the team. They wouldn't let me.
True story, by the way. True.
But I also think back to this notion of, Boulder's a very special place. We were a family up there, and what happened this week in this individual that had a mental health issue, and when you think about how we talk about it, and CJ, you were talking about how mental health is, everyone needs a shrink. We talk about how this notion of stigma. And the first thing out of everybody's mouth is this wacko, this sicko. So mental illness has been associated with this wacko, this sicko. And I think that's further making it harder for people to talk about something that might fit in that category. And then I think about as athletes, where you guys were big men on campus, autograph signing on the TV, national, everywhere. And so I can't imagine at your level with the spotlight and how much you don't have that outlet to be able to have that conversation. But let me transition real quick to Stevie. Wow. So you are the call list friend, your mentor.
Yeah, my mentor.
So the sign, I imagine someone you talk to quite frequently. Were there any signs that existed during leading up to him taking his life?
So let me just say this. He didn't take his life. He passed, and they said it was natural causes. What I'm telling you is that it was so dark that had I not had the right support system, I would have probably wanted to take
Got
it.
it. Got it.
Follow what I'm saying? Because the thing is that, because what happens is how we deal with trauma and how we deal with adversity is very, very dynamic. And you almost have to be abnormal to not have anxiety and depression in this system.
okay? Especially as a melanated person. I would never be upset at a system that was not created for me in the first place. I just have to learn how to maneuver within that system to have as much peace and tranquility as I can.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having someone like him, because I seen someone comment and said that therapist saves lives. Well, mentors save lives too. And you don't always have to go sit down on someone's couch with a shrink and get the same energy. You can have friends, you can have mentors, you can have people in your family that say, hey, look, I see a light in you that you don't see in yourself right now, and you need to pull your stuff together. So, you know, and to the point that the brothers made earlier about melanated men, you know, when my daughter falls on the ground and starts to cry, oh, baby, don't, oh, baby, you know, it's okay. My son falls on the ground. Hey, boy, wipe them tears off, man. Come on, let's go. Tighten up. And so if that's something that's put into your psyche since a child, now when it is time to show emotion, when it is time to be vulnerable, that's not something that we do. And so now you're holding all of this energy in, and then one day, guess what? If it's not displayed or handled, unpacked in the right manner, then you have what we're talking about here. And I think society has a lot to do with this too, because society makes people think that, you know, in order to be significant or successful, you have to have this cookie cutter life. And number one, for melanated people, we all know that cookie cutter lives is not our thing, right? But when you fall into a system and a conditioning that makes you feel like if you're at 30 years old, if you're not married with a white picket fence and 2 children and a dog, then you're not significant and successful. So then people go into this mode of depression and anxiety. And all anxiety is a bunch of different thoughts in your head at one time that you do not know how to compute. And you do not know how to process. And so when I got released from the NFL, I played 10 years with 11 different teams. So I was released and cut and traded a lot of different times. And my last year, when I got released, I didn't even know I was depressed. I didn't even know I was dealing with anxiety. I didn't know it. I was doing something since 7 years old to the age of 32, and I did not recognize the signs. And if I had not gone through that, dealing with my mentor's death and seeing that trauma, I wouldn't have been able to handle it with the same amount of maturation.
Yeah, that's real. So why do you think it's important for the three of you all to be having this conversation? CJ, I'm gonna go to you.
Robin, first of all, let me just say this before I go any further.
Yeah.
What you and EJ and Kennedy have done with this platform is nothing short of amazing. It gives voice to real, excuse my language, real shit. And there are not other platforms or opportunities for me. My guess is for many of us to have these types of conversations. So I tip my cap to you guys for being amazing. I am always mindful. I'll give you a scenario. I'm in a grocery store not long ago, and someone recognizes me and immediately began to talk about the 5th down, right? Did I know 5 downs? And I'm thinking to myself, that was 30 years ago. I don't even, the 52-year-old CJ don't even recognize that 21-year-old person. But my identity in this human being's, this other person's eyes was completely wrapped in that instant, as if I'm stuck in time, as if that was my purpose in living. And I say that because if we're not careful, are we contributing those same types of or that same kind of sort of manufactured identity to young boys or young boys and girls that we mentor? What do we value, and what is it about individuals that we value? I have 2 kids, neither of whom really know if the ball is blown up or stuffed. And quite frankly, if they had a different path, if they loved sports, I'd have been supportive of them. But in a way, because they didn't, it was almost a relief to me. I was relieved that I knew that particular pressure wouldn't be one that they would have to deal with in terms of fighting for their own identity, right? And so I think it's just so important to talk about, because, you know, just because you're 6'10" doesn't mean you're a basketball player.
No.
But we're going to make you a basketball player. And if you're not good, we're going to talk bad about you.
Right.
Just because you're the fastest kid in the class doesn't make you the running back or love football. But if you don't, we're going to talk bad about you. Just because you don't identify necessarily in the body that you were born in, right? We're going to talk bad about you if you dare express yourself in your most authentic way. What conditions are we contributing to that set up our young boys and girls for such a tragedy?
There we go. All right. I'm going to move us on. I'm going to bring back my lovely two co-hosts on the pink couch. And we're going to move into tackling stigma. And somebody's mic, like there's some gremlins attacking it. I don't know whose that is.
I think it's EJ.
Probably who?
I think it's EJ's. Just
Keep going, CJ. I'm trying to love you here. I'm trying to love you.
So
that's a stigma.
Thank you, Hagen.
Which one? The crying or the love? Which one? We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pivot a little bit, because you know, in leading up to this conversation, I was so looking forward to bringing these three brothers together. I've known Darian and CJ since I was 18. I feel like I've known Stevie since about that long, although I'm probably about 20 years older than he is. But very passionate, dynamic, successful men in what they do. You know, Darian still at University of Colorado, so please send out our love to the community about what's going on there as the running back coach. We have further up the street, CJ is you know, leading diversity and inclusion and equity at Ball Corporation. And Stevie, with your business card must be as big as a billboard. I mean, an actor, athlete, speaker, writer of 2 books, and a philanthropist. I mean, on and on and on and on. And so, you know, there's CJ, into what you were talking about, there's these, you guys are successful. You guys are like living your life in a very admirable way, where many people are looking up to you. So the words that you are using, the conversations that you're having are you know, people emulate you. And so couple of questions I want to ask. First one is, I would love to hear what you all at your age, 52s, I think we're up to 51 and younger, what conversation would you have with yourself at 20? First question. Second question would be, I'm thinking about the roles that you have in mentoring young kids, Stevie, what you do through your organizations, and when you're talking to folks. Darian, you're shaping young kids' lives every day as a coach. CJ, you are always public speaking, leading diversity, getting people to have uncomfortable conversations about many different things. And so when you're having these conversations, when you're having this discussion with the folks in your span of influence, I mean, again, they're at that age. A lot of them are at that age. What do you say to them in this topic around tackling stigma? So that's 2 loaded questions, and go. And I'm going to take a sip.
Well, after those questions, I'm going to take a sip right with you.
There you go. Cheers. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and start. You know,
Okay.
I think the 52-year-old CJ would tell the 20-year-old CJ, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't have to chase them all down, and you all can interpret what that means, and to, you know, yourselves. You know, life unfolds over time, and I have no idea, quite frankly, who I am at 20, because the 30-year-old CJ won't even recognize the 20-year-old CJ, let alone the 52-year-old CJ. And you know, it's interesting. You're right, Rob, and I know Hagen, and for Stevie, that is probably similar. People always want to know my story, like, oh, tell me my story. And quite frankly, they have in their minds what that story is already going to sound like. And I always stop them and say, no, you probably know more about my story, at least think you do, than one should. I want to know your story. Do you even know your story? Like, what value, you're placing a value on the benefit of hearing my story. What is your own story? Have you taken time out to just stop to say, this is who I am, and this is what in part gives me value? Because I think too often, the world defines us because we haven't defined ourselves. We don't even know who we are. I don't know who I am. And so therefore, whatever Robin or Kennedy or EJ or Stevie or Hagen tell me I am, then I'm gonna try to live up to that.
At 20, is that a conversation you could hear?
No, the 20-year-old conversation, Robin, you missed that part. The 20-year-old conversation was, you don't have to chase them all right now.
Got it.
Now this is the conversation I'm having with people today.
Got it.
Just tell me your story. I force people, tell me your story. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, people stop. They have to think, and they think, well, mine's not as interesting as yours. That's not true. That's not true. Have you even given thought to what makes you, what gives you value as a human being? I want to hear that. So I'll stop there, but that's what I try and solicit from folks when I'm talking to them.
I love you.
I would tell my 20-year-old self to recognize that the more you know, the more you don't know, and to always ask questions. Don't just take what you received from family and friends and even the education system. Don't just take that for what you think it is. Dig deeper. So I would tell the 20-year-old myself, that version of myself, that. And as far as stigma is concerned, I think once again you have to look at programming and conditioning and manipulation. And when you recognize that a people have been told since day one that they're slaves. Like, if you think about the mindset and mentality that Kirsten and Piper had been told that they're masters, but Tyrone and Stevie got told that they were slaves since kindergarten. So you're going to do slave things until you unlearn and relearn that, and until you get information about Mansa Musa, Haile Selassie, and different people who look just like you, that had a level of opulence that you didn't see. And these people weren't playing football, being an athlete, artist, entertainer, dope boy, stripper. These people were using their intellect. These people were using their gift that they got from the universal God to be able to do what they were doing. And I remember when I spoke to Clemson. I spoke to Clemson in 18 and 19. And the main thing that I told all the melanated players on the team was that NFL, and this might be a little controversial, but I told them that NFL stands for niggas for lease, because they used to sell slaves, now they lease them. And it's a mentality and a mindset, not talking about race, but talking about information. Because money is not power, and education alone is not power, but information is power. And if you have good information, you have good power. If you have bad information, you have bad power. So that's the stigma that I'd like to unveil, is the bad information about who we are, so that we don't have to set our standard based on the people. I mean, you just think about this, and I'll close. We the only people in the world who here grow up to God. Everybody else here grow down. We don't see our power. We run faster than everybody else in the world. We just won't run our consciousness. We jump higher than everybody else in the world, but we will not elevate our standard of living for ourselves. And so we're so busy looking out that we never look within to see the true essence of who we are. We always have to get stamped by, a degree, money, fame, cars, homes, whatever society says that's important. But at the end of the day, when your spirit leaves your meat suit, none of that stuff is important. What's important is how you impact the way people think. What's important is how you connect with people's soul, inner man. So that's how I would say we can change that stigma.
Yeah, that's why we have you guys on the couch. Go ahead.
Now, I was gonna say, for me, at 51 and talking to my 20-year-old self, I would tell that person to slow down, think before you speak, okay, watch people, okay, and try to emulate people that you respect. People that you respect, in my opinion, okay, is people that are doing the right things, the things that's going to empower you in life. Okay, don't listen to that 19-year-old knucklehead that is telling you to not to go to class, not to do this, not to do that. You know, look to someone that's doing those right things. And you know, if I would have done that at 20 years old, sky would have been the limit for me. But at 20 years old, I wanted to be a class clown. I wanted to be a jackass. You know, so I would tell them to watch and observe. Okay, and
Yeah.
then what I do on a daily basis with my players is I try to impact them in positive ways. I don't like to talk to them about football, games, and things like that. I talk to them about their life experiences. You know, I talk to them about how they're doing in classroom. You know, are you you know, seeking help, you know, on a paper? Are you you know, asking questions and things like that? You know, I don't want these guys to have a stigma that's all one-sided. You know, an athlete is an athlete, and when that athleticism is gone, then what are you gonna do? Okay, then you're just gonna be lumped in to that stigma that you just a common nigga.
So, all three of you, and I love it, and the stories that you talked about your younger self, everything was about aspiring to be something else, you know, or looking to be, or trying to claim that, you know, whatever you had in your mind was that picture of you have arrived, right? And so, as we're thinking about the stigma around all of this and the stigma around suicide in particular, it's really combating all of those things. It's tearing away at all of those images that we put together of what, you know, the ideal life looks like. So I am one where if you can't name it, you can't address it, right? So I want us to get really raw about and they seem obvious, but I want to put them out there anyhow. What are some of these stigmas that we're coming up against? What are some of the core, even as you are, you faced your own individual experiences and touches with suicide? What were some of those stigmas that were alive in those stories?
It's a good question.
And this is why it gets hard. Yeah.
No. I can say that the most obvious stigma that I'd say as a man is that I can't show love to another brother without it being, you know, looked upon as, okay, you might be a homosexual or something like that. So, you know, for me, I just asked one of my closest friends this the other day. I said, bro, if you walking down the street and you see 4 or 5 brothers with some hoods on, he said I will automatically put myself in defense mode when I walk through them. As opposed to the fact that if he sees 4 or 5 white dudes, he said he'll walk right past them and not really have as much defense mechanism about. That's a stigma that, once again, you talk about mental health. That's something that we got to address and unpack, because that digs all the way deep into the fact of, if I see CJ and I can't say, bro, I love you, man, keep soaring, King. If I can't say that to him, because, and the reason why reason why I can't say that to him, I go back to the manipulation. If I don't love myself in my own light, I will never celebrate anybody else's life. So then, if I don't love my light because of what I've been conditioned and programmed that I am, or that I have not accomplished or attained, it's easy to get up out of here. It's easy to say, well, forget about it. Now, these are people who you think aren't even successful or have made money or haven't achieved things. Then you talk about, like, they only talk about Junior Seau and Dave Durson in the NFL as like and the young guy who just took his life a couple years ago. But I know countless of guys, because I played on 11 different teams, 5 NFL, 5 CFL, and 1 arena. And I know dudes from the CFL that take their life every year. But you're not going to see that on ESPN because those names are not big. those names are not ringing bells, and they don't. The football community as a whole does not want their people to stop pushing their children to play football. And there's nothing against football. It helped me get into some doors. But let's be real. It's a violent sport. It's a violent game. And if you don't think there's repercussions that come behind that deal with the mental capacity, and then don't make it to the league and get cut, or play a ball out in college and think you're going to the league and not make it. You talk about depression. So these are people who are kind of like in the top percentile. You make it to the NFL, you a 1%er. And you still don't know your value. You know why? Because you've been programmed to think that your value and your worth is based upon making it. The American dream, which we all have found out is the American scheme. I'll close on that.
So what's interesting about that, Stevie, is I feel very fortunate that I grew up with two parents in a household who always instilled in us that our value was found in our character. And it was always about being more Christ-like than it was about being like a person or an idol, that was a human. And so I always grew up with this sense of confidence about who I was. But I will say the one thing that was a stigma that they didn't really expand on in our household was the fact that Black people don't have mental health issues. We don't have that. That's not a Black people thing. That's wrong. Right? And so when you talk about, you can know who you are and know where you come from and believe in all of that. But if you think that you are immune to something simply because of who you are living in denial.
I agree. So, all through life, playing Pop Warner football, being a 3-sport athlete, being labeled as being one of the best to have done it. And, in my neighborhood, in my family, I was always the one that was always told that if you make it, we all make it. Okay. And so I get to the NFL and I'm with the 49ers and I get cut. And instantly I felt like I let everybody that's in my life, in my community, in my family, I let everybody down. Mm-hmm. And you talking about going into depression. Mm-hmm. I was depressed. I felt lonely. I was isolated. I didn't know what to do, and at one point, the only thing that I found comfort in was drinking, and that ain't the answer, So what I did was, and a lot of people won't do this, is I went back to school and I paid my own way to get my degree. Okay, so I put my bootstraps up, went back to school, got my degree, and the best thing ever happened to me was doing that, because I found who I really was. And I realized that as an athlete, that didn't define me. I defined who I am by what I do. And all I wanted to do was positive things. And, I want to lead these young men that I'm leading right now and be positive influence in their lives. And everything that I do, I always try to, I tell the kids this, you come in my room, I'm going to damn sure make certain that you have a well-rounded college experience. I'm not going to expect nothing less of you or nothing more of you, but your best. And, I can lay my head down at night and not worry about a thing.
Darian, say it again. When you I'm serious. I'm telling you about defining yourself by your role.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I'm listening to Hagen and I'm a year older than Hagen. I was a freshman in '87. He came in '88. And in a lot of ways, I've looked up to him. I was reading an article about a kid that you all signed, that CU signed, and out of Georgia, Buford, Georgia. And he talked about you in the recruiting process and you being the reason why he came to CU, not because you were a finalist for the Heisman Trophy or led a team to a national championship, but because you saw something in him beyond his ability to run a touchdown, to score a touchdown. And it struck me for a number of reasons, not the least of which, Higgs, and this is for everybody. You know, Hagan was one of the great quarterbacks in the history of college football. I say the greatest option quarterback in the history of college football. But people identify, and quite frankly, you know, your community, as you just defined, just shared it, we all attribute that to your athletic ability. What people don't give this guy credit for was he was the smartest cat, cerebrally, to be able to read complex defenses and do the things that white quarterbacks just get credit for because they're assumed to be capable of being cerebral and smart. He was the most cerebral and smart and happened to be the best athlete as well. No one, you know, and so I tell people all the time, stop. You know, what you don't know or what you haven't paid attention to was this guy was brilliant. He wasn't just physically brilliant. The way he diagnosed defenses and broke them down so that he can put his team. Long story short is, and I see this in my line of work right now as vice president of D&I at Ball. When a white face comes before the selection committee, it's always met with the assumption of capability, of being capable, before the resume is even read. When black faces come before the selection committee, you never get the benefit of being considered capable. You have to prove. It's almost like you have to carry your papers to prove that you are capable. And you know, I think again, these are the conditions that we contribute to unconsciously that makes our challenge even greater than society itself presents to us.
Whew. I just want people to take a minute and take it. That was a lot. I want people to take a minute and take it all in.
We are so off script right now.
Oh, there was a script?
No, I love it. So what I am going to do is, I do think this. I think what's important is for the three ladies to go backstage and let you three brothers have a conversation about why aren't we having this discussion around our mental health, around having the open, clear conversation with our homies, our buddies, our colleagues around, are you okay? Not, you know, when we find out someone has cancer, we know that's the conversation we know what to have. When someone something's off, we don't tend to off in terms of they're not responding to our calls and texts, not like in the CJ way, because you don't respond to your calls and texts. But if they're not responding to, you know, I couldn't help that. But you know, if they're different, there's someone that we know that is just like might be a little worried about, as well as what you all have said at some point, whether it's this show or before, the signs aren't always there. So we're going to take ourselves off stage, the first on the pink couch. And CJ, don't turn the couch purple. We're going to take ourselves off stage and let you guys have a conversation for about 10 minutes.
Right on, Rob. And before we go further, Hagan, you know this lady, and Steve, you may not, but I just saw that Mama Fern.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and so I want to give a shout out to Mama Fern. Mama Fern is, you know, if the name Eric Bieniemy rings a bell, Eric's mom, and she was our mom at CU. And when we talk about stigma and you know, the challenges we have in our self-identity, she was as big a figure and helping us define who we are as anyone. You know, I don't know what the experiment would have been like 30 years ago without Mama Fern. So just wanted to say a shout out to Mama Fern and let you know we love you.
Yeah, she knew how to calm everyone down when the storm was brewing, man. She was coming, and she was going to calm the situation down. She was going to make sure that we were well informed and what we should do and what we should not do. and not a person in that room that she was in didn't listen.
That's right.
Everybody was
That's right.
full attention. Mama Firm is awesome.
Let me ask you guys a question. You know, we're talking a lot through the lens of sports, and it's so ingrained in our society that it would be foolish to say let's just turn our heads from it as if it don't exist and start new. What does that conversation sound like? Rocky just ended that last segment asking the question of why don't we have those conversations? And when we do, what do they sound like? Steve-O, you just mentioned it as well, being able to express openly a love for brothers, things that, again, we've not, quite frankly, been great at, not been taught to do. What does those conversations sound like in your circles?
In my personal circle, it sounds a lot like this, right? I mean, and I think at the end of the day that there's a bend in consciousness now, and people are starting to be open to receiving this type of information at this rate, you know, and at this volume. But typically, if you're having a barbershop conversation, it's not about this. It's about, okay, did LeBron score X amount of points last night? Or who was the best college football team or whatever? So it's very, very lower vibratory, in my opinion. And so typically, we all can relate to this. Playing football and being involved in athletics since the age of 7 for me personally, all the way to 32, and in organized, structured, professional sports. I watch a game and I'll engage and I'll look at it, but I don't have the same type of passion and connection that I had before. What I have a passion and connection for is things like this, where we can sit down and say, hey, how can we come up with ways to change the way we process information as a people? And in whatever way we can get to that place, because I don't have to be right. I just got to be righteous. And I always say, it's iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel, will sharpen will. And so, you know, we don't have to pray the same. We don't have to worship the same. But I know one thing, if we both get pulled over by the police, we got to deal with the same energy.
That's true.
And I mean, this is coming from, I don't care if you riding around in a Bentley or you in the ghetto, like you're going to have to deal with a certain type of energy if you get pulled over by a certain type of officer. And you look this. So now that's a common ground. So maybe from there we can say, hey man, let's stop having beef with one another and let's come together. I'm in the gym the other day, CJ, and I got a brother staring me down, like the brother just staring me down. This is the 3rd or 4th time I'm seeing it. So at first I'm thinking, well, maybe he knows me or recognized me on a TV show or something. No, it wasn't that.
You're the same guy?
The same brother.
Mm.
So mind you, this day that we had this interaction, he's talking to a white dude, like just having an amazing conversation with this guy. So he's staring at me and I'm walking up to him and I'm like, I look back and all I see is the wall. He's looking dead at me through me. So I said, bro, what's up, man? Like, why do you keep staring at me, bro? So I walk up to the brother and I say, hey man, you know, I pulled my hand out to shake his hand. I said, you know, you can talk to him, but you can't talk to me. And I think that it clicked in his head, like, damn, that's real. But then when I tried to squeeze his whole hand off, you know, he probably felt some type of way about that too. But at the end of the day, this brother, y'all, pulled his gun out of his bag and put it in the easier part to reach of his bag in the middle of the gym.
Wow. I
have my gun on me too. So, I mean, the Bible is for those that do believe. The gun is for those that don't believe. So I have mine on me too. So, but at the same time, now we're about to go kill one another over that incident or conversation.
Over a look.
This young brother was ready to go there. And I know my discernment is not off key.
Yeah.
This is mental health. These are the stigmas that we're talking about, bro. And it says that's a mental health thing. And let me tell you something about COVID. I think COVID, we already had mental health issues. We already had bad, regular, health, heart attack, diabetes, blood, cancer. We already had that. COVID, only thing it did was put the icing on the cake. It made everything more hyper. Everybody's more fearful. Everybody's more agitated. It's like quick trick. So that's my take on it. you guys take off from there, man.
No, that's real talk, man.
That is. You know, a lot of the times that you know, when you want to talk about mental health and all that stuff, the elephant elephant's in the room and nobody wants to address it. You know, but it's something that, you know, us as men, when we're talking to our boys, you know, we can address it. But when we're talking one-on-one with someone we're not really familiar with, or someone we just made contact with, then it's uncomfortable and no one wants to talk about it. So you kind of make light of it. But when you with your boy, you know, you can tell your boy, especially like I can go to CJ, hey man, hey, you know, I think something ain't right with you. Let's go get this checked out. And as boy to boy, you're gonna respect that. You know, if you got that common respect for each other. But if I went, you know, Stevie, I don't know you like that, but if I came to you and I'd be like, hey Stevie, you know, I heard some things about you. I'm not really familiar with you, but you know, some things that I'm concerned about, some things that I've heard, you know, you would probably get upset at me because you'd be like, you don't know me. You know what I mean? That now the conversation is gonna be awkward. Nobody want to deal with it. You know, so the hard thing to do is to get that person to open up, and then you got to find a way to finesse the situation. You can't just come out and just hit them with it. You know, you got to finesse the situation, and I think if you did it the right way, then I think people can talk about it. You know, talk about it more and address those things.
Yep.
That's a nice little segue. You know, I was a little nervous to leave my my peeps alone by themselves, but I'm glad y'all did that right. I mean, I think we need to do this more often. So I'm going to bring back EJ and Kennedy. And we're also going to bring Darian, nice segue. We're going to bring Finesse onto the couch. And so Finesse, for those of you all who tuned in last night, Finesse is trending. She's been trending since she got on the couch, and mostly because of her passion, her story, her testimony that she shared. And I just want to throw it to you, Finesse. You've been backstage, you've been listening, you've been commenting, and I want to turn the floor over to you as I'm going to say this, and you will correct me if I'm wrong, right? I am thankful you are pretty horrible at suicide, taking your life. I'm grateful for that. And so I want to bring you up to hear your commentary based on what you've been hearing over the past hour.
Well, that is the first time I've ever heard that, Ms. Robbins. So I know that I hate to laugh because we are talking about something so serious, but anybody that know me, y'all know I laugh at everything. The way that you worded that is the right way. I'm sure it's what my family probably wanted to say, but they didn't know how to say it. So thank you for saying that. I'm glad that I was terrible at trying to take my own life too, because I get to be here and laugh at these men, this football team that we got on the peak couch. This has been so great to listen to. Y'all are something else. So I appreciate it. It's been a joy to watch. I appreciate y'all, bringing me back on. I appreciate that. Man, like y'all dropped a lot of gems. Y'all said some stuff. I was like, ooh, where this gonna go? But it was great. Like the way that you all, made all of that tie into real life. That's what's important today, because people think that when you start talking about suicide and start talking about mental health, that you got to get so serious. And yes, it is a serious situation, but it only is normalized when you make it into a normal, like you're talking regular, so that it's more comfortable to get a little bit deeper into what you're trying to figure out. So y'all, like the fact that y'all are able to just get on here and be brave and share y'all stories, it just touched me, because I don't really get a chance to see not only people that look like me, but people that, that are very, very masculine, like no matter what gender it is, but just a masculine figure to talk about something that makes you vulnerable. That is, that's a phenomenal thing. So I appreciate y'all even, doing something like this. Had I heard something like this just 10 years ago from people that look like y'all, it would have touched me so much different. Because it was always, y'all already been raw, so I guess we might as well just keep going with it, eh? So, you know, for me, I can say growing up, when you talk about mental health and you talk about suicide, it's typically Caucasian men, and they're older. And even still today, like most of the youth, like suicide, and when you talk about mental health, it's older Caucasian men. And so when you see other people that talk about it, you're just like, wait, okay, all right, we're moving in the right direction. Like it's phenomenal. So I'm just grateful because, you know, it's almost like seeing a father figure if we're talking about me. So I represent the youth, the Gen Zs and the millennials. And so like when we see older people, and I'm not calling anybody old, please don't take it that way, but when we see older people speaking up, it makes it easier for us to feel like, okay, we're not crazy and we're not doing anything wrong by talking about it, because normally it's just us. And, you know, we're considered rebellious as younger generations. They're like, y'all just say what y'all want to say. And it's like, but it's really how we're feeling. And y'all call us sensitive sometimes, but we're not gonna talk about that, you know, but it's real. And so to see older people just talking about it in a normal way, like it wasn't weird. I don't know if y'all was uncomfortable. I didn't think I didn't feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't know. Like, it really did. It did something to me. Like, y'all got me over here. Like,
your energy is last night. Your energy is, I wish we were all in the same room, but it's contagious. Your energy is just very, very different. And I'm so glad, that you provided that feedback. And we are, go ahead and respond.
I just want to ask Vanessa a question because I know that she mentioned Gen Z and all that. And I think that growing up in the social media era, like when I left Bethune, my rookie year in the league is when Facebook had just started. You know what I'm saying? So like it wasn't fake, it wasn't Instagram. We had MySpace and Black Planet and all that. But so I think they were talking about there's this show called Black Mirror on Netflix where social media is like very important, and it's, you know, they rate you and how important you are and all this and all. So what I was saying is that I think that this generation is more impacted by that as well, because the social media age, it puts a lot of pressure on you where if you haven't achieved or accomplished something online, and you don't have a certain amount of followers, you don't have a blue check, like that stuff, if it impacts people who are celebrities and have made it and I got a blue check on everything, but it still impacts me to a degree if somebody says something bad about me on my page. So I'm just saying, do you think that has something to do with that, Finesse?
With me growing up, or are you saying like as of today, right now, whatever? Like, yeah, as of today, yeah, I can definitely say it's like when you look at your likes and your likes don't match up, and all of that. Like a lot of people have been talking about how mental health is really affecting their mental health. I'm sorry, mental health is affecting their mental health. Social media has really impacted their mental health in a negative way. And everybody try these detox. And the craziest thing is social media goes in the category of addiction. Like the detox that people try to do, they're not successful. Like it's bad. Like it's like almost trying to stop smoking, or it's like, and I just don't understand it, because I guess for me, I'm not attached to my phone. Like I don't even like being on social media, if I be honest. So like I know the power of social media, and people don't really understand it. They're like, oh yeah, I want more likes, I want more followers, and I want this, and then they get it, and they're like, wait, with more love is more hate. With more great comments, you're gonna get some negative comments, and you're not ready for that. You think everybody's just gonna come and love you, like, oh, we love you, and it's like, why your face look like that? What's wrong with their hair, or what? You know, and that's the things that, and it after that, it's just like right then and there, someone can easily enter into a depression, and it's not because they were not, you know, they didn't have good self-esteem. I mean, you could think you the finest person in the world, but when somebody else tell you how ugly you are, you like, well, wait a minute, like, you know, it makes you question who you are. And so social media has definitely, it's not good. It's killing us. Literally, it's killing us.
So EJ, well, first of all, a couple of things. One, thank you all. Stevie, CJ, Darian, Finesse, thank you all. We were talking before the show about the number of people that just with the few of us that were on, that how many we've reached out to since last night. And we're batting 1,000 right now with our shows. We did this show to make a difference when one of our dearest friends died, and we said we need to do something. And so our sole goal, is to bring these uncomfortable conversations to the comfort of a couch and have these discussions about things that nobody's talking about in our communities, whether it's women, people of color, and other marginalized communities. That's why we have this platform. So, Miss Fern, hey, hey, Mama Fern, I'm coming to see you as soon as I get my second COVID shot. Okay, EJ, bring us home. At every show that we do, we always end with, we're not just going to talk about it, we're going to be about it. So we always end with a do something. EJ, bring us home with a do something.
Okay. So we've heard a lot over the last 2 days. I am so grateful to each and every one of you for sharing your stories with us today. And what we're going to ask right now is twofold. One, reach out and check on your people and check on your strongest people as well. Call them, see how they're doing. If they don't answer, call them back. Let them know that somebody is there who loves them, who cares about them, and who wants them to be around and will miss them if they aren't here. So reach out to your people, let them know. And I think the second one is focus on the semicolon and not the period. Focus on the semicolon. Every day, you never know the challenges that somebody is facing every single day. But it doesn't have to be permanent, because there's new mercy, new grace, new opportunities, and a new sunrise every day. I don't care what you believe, what you practice. What I do know is that the sun is going to rise again tomorrow. And with that, there is a whole nother opportunity to get it right, to do it right, to be whole, to be everything that you thought you couldn't be or that you aren't right now. So if you need help, ask for help. If you want to talk, reach out, call somebody. If you are feeling it and you are feeling like, you know what, this is too hard for me. Go ahead and literally reach out for that lifeline. Call a friend, call a parent. If you don't have anyone to call the hotline, the suicide hotline, and somebody, I guarantee you, your presence will be missed if that sunrise comes tomorrow and you're not a part of it. So I thank you all. Kennedy, why don't you give 2 seconds on you are our resident advocate. Yes, ma'am.
One more thing. So it was brought up earlier around the police, and there's this notion of the talk, right? Everyone learned that in our households, Black and brown households, we have this conversation called the talk with police. 10 and 2, make sure your voice is, take the bass out your voice. I suggest we need to add the talk. And so whether it's around how to behave in around police, whether it's the sex talk, this conversation around mental health needs to be added into our toolkit as we're talking with our kids growing up. So I just want to add that in there. Go ahead, Ken.
We're hearing you took Kennedy's 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think that was perfect though, Robin, because the thing that we don't realize is people believe that if you don't call it what it is and you don't say the words and you don't have a direct conversation, that they can avoid the outcome. And I will tell you that is exactly the opposite of that. Have an honest conversation. If you're worried about somebody and you assume that they won't reach out to them, talk to them in private, tell them you care. Most importantly, listen. Close your mouth. Listen to what they have to say. They need to feel heard. Avoid debating the value of life with them. Don't minimize the problems that they're experiencing or try to give them advice on how to fix the problems. Just listen. It's okay to ask them, are you thinking of hurting yourself, causing harm to yourself, or dying by suicide? Do you have a plan for that? It is okay to ask that question directly. Don't dance around it. Just ask and encourage them to get help and let them know that you will support them all the way through it. And that is the best thing that you can do.
So, whew, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath.
All right. So again, thank you all. Our next show, April 22nd. And what are we going to be talking about, EJ?
We are going to be talking about, we said we like uncomfy, so get ready. We are going to be talking about sexual harassment. And sexual harassment is not for, has no discrimination. It sees no color. It sees no race. And we're going to see you. It sees no gender. But we're going to tackle that face on, head on, and get ready.
All right. Play that beautiful bean footage.
Meet y'all on the couch.